Believe that. All right, carrying on, you need or may need a generator depending on what your system is set up like. I've got a little 3,500 watt propane powered generator. But if you get a really long stretch of cloudy weather and your batteries are getting low, then you'll need to power up the generator. I noticed that in the last 3 years, I've used 14 kilowatts of electricity from the generator. I've got my generator running through a little power meter. And 14 kilowatts isn't very much. That's less than the average house uses in a day. So over three years, I've used less than most houses would use in a day from the generator.
Do you find that more efficient than the gas-powered generators?
No, I find it easier to maintain because the gas-powered generators, the gas goes skunky if you don't use them.
Yeah.
So you either have to use them or you have to fill it with the gas. That thing's pretty easy to start, and the propane never goes bad. And since I rarely use it, I haven't used that in 2 years, I think. So since I rarely use it, that's it's there sort of as an emergency backup type thing. But
what's the relative cost of that compared to a gas generator?
that one was about $700. I suspect, I suspect you could probably get a gas generator for 3,500 watts. Not a big generator. You could probably get a 3,500 watt generator for probably half that for gas. If you go for grid tied without storage, you're still connected to the power company and they're still sending power to your house, but you've got renewable energy sources and inverter which is supplying your house when it can. If your house isn't drawing very much power, you can sell that power back to the power company, although they don't pay you very much for it.
My assumption is that you don't have to deal with them?
No, I have no relationship with Nova Scotia Power.
Right, that's what I thought. Yeah.
They were the people that did the inspection because they're the inspection authority. That seems a little incestuous, but but beyond the fact that it had to meet the electrical specifications, because you can electrocute yourself or burn yourself down in an off-grid house just as well as you can in an on-grid house. So that has to meet it. But no, I have no relationship with NS Power. I don't get a bill. I don't do anything with it.
Nice.
Yeah, indeed, nice.
Did you find they give you any hassle with regards to
No,
your
the
plans,
inspector seemed a little, perplexed with the stuff that was off-gridish, the regular stuff, because it comes in and goes through the inverter, and then it's just regular stuff, and he was fine with. He was a little perplexed with it. I don't think he dealt with any of those previously, or at least not many. But no, I saw no attempt to hassle me about it. Okay, he was trying to do his job and do it to the best of his ability, and I could not complain about that. So
Great.
I got it passed and no issues. But the electricians I worked with had done this sort of thing before, so they were familiar with it. And at the time that I did it, it all went smoothly. All right.
So the one advantage of the without storage is you don't have the battery bank.
Yeah.
So you have the cost saving of the battery.
You don't have to pay for the battery bank, but the bad thing is, of course, is that if the power goes out at night, then you go out.
Yeah.
So you have some of them. That's actually quite a popular thing in Australia. That's tremendously popular. See that going on all over the place. My daughter lives in Australia, so I got some familiarity with that. But and it's not, and I know people that have that. It's not a bad way to do it, but it doesn't give you the independence that you might have. Grid tied with storage is very similar, except we've added a battery pack here, so that your renewable energy charges up a battery pack. From there it goes to the inverter, from there it goes to your house, and really the power company here is only serving as a backup if you use more power than you can generate or your batteries are getting low. So that's a handy way to go as well, and it does mean that if the power company goes out, you're still fine. You're running off the battery pack there. Then there's full off-grid. This is my situation. The only change there is everything is the same, except over here, instead of having the power company, I have a generator. So if something goes wrong here in this system here, or the battery bank just gets low, then I can fire up the generator and I can charge up the batteries through the inverter, and I can power the house from it. So, you want to plan for energy efficiency from the beginning. One of the things you want to do is avoid phantom loads. Can anybody tell me what a phantom load is?
All little clocks on your VCR.
Yeah.
And TVs that don't really shut off.
Anything that takes power when it's not doing anything useful. And there's a remarkable number of these things these days. You don't think about it that much, but they're all over the place. There's a list of some of the things that draw power when they're not doing anything useful. Certainly in our case, with things like the TV, the microwave, the satellite box, the garage door opener, we've got them on switches. We're not using them, we flip them off. Some things we just do without. I don't have an answering machine. If you don't get me, phone back later. And for computers, I've got the laptop that I'm using to run this display is my main computer. Those things are much more efficient because they've been designed for portable operation than a desktop type computer, which chews a lot more power, so those are a good option. So you want to think about, I rewired my doorbell so that it's rather than not, usually I have a little transformer that sits there drawing 5 watts just so that when somebody presses it, every few days, it can go bing bong. Mine runs off the battery, so it's not doing anything if nobody's pressed it. So it.
Door knocker.
Yeah, door knocker. Well, I got one of those too.
I don't use my doorbell anyway. You knock on the door.
But no, but it's just these things waste power, and nobody thinks about it. But, there's a lot of choices and trade-offs when you're talking about off-grid. Energy usage is the first one because it's reducing your energy use is way less expensive than building a big off-grid power system. So that's the first trick. You need the generator. If you're looking at this, you probably want to do an energy budget based on either your current electric bill, which will tell you how much you're using now, or you can get spreadsheets that you can say, well, all right, I'm going to be using the TV for so many hours a day and it takes so much, and you can go through and add up all the stuff that you're using. It's easy to forget stuff or leave things out, but I did an energy budget like that before building the house and was pleased to discover that my energy use was a little less than the budget had predicted, so that wasn't bad. Okay, your renewable power source, that's one of the things, there's a number of factors. How big is your renewable power source, your panels, if you're going for photovoltaic? How big is the battery? How much are you going to use? And how often do you want to use the generator? These are all interrelated. Because if you have a very small battery, it doesn't cost you very much, but you're going to likely having to be running the generator a lot because the battery's going to run down, and also you're pushing the battery hard, so it's not going to last as long. You can put in a really big battery that costs more, but then you need, how quickly can you charge this battery up? You may need a bigger solar array to charge it up. So there's a whole lot of things that are interrelated and relate back to cost. So you really need to sit down with somebody that's knowledgeable and talk to them about it. Again, batteries are part of this equation. The generator is part of the equation. All right, let's talk about some example photovoltaic packages. These prices were from about a year ago, so it may have changed a little bit, but they're reasonably current. These are representative ballpark figures. Your mileage may vary. It depends on who you get to do the installation, but at least this gives you some idea of what's going on. This was for a grid-tied system, 5,000 watts, installed for $16,500. Again, that's with the price of these panels has come down dramatically. You want to get a little bigger. This is a grid-tied system with a small battery for about $20,000. And this is a good-sized system, 5,000 watts with a big battery. That's essentially the system that I've got. And that comes out to around $26,000 installed. And I know some people who have said, oh goodness, I couldn't afford to be off-grid, and yet they're in fairly big houses. My theory is make your house smaller and put the money into the off-grid stuff. You don't need a house that's huge. That's my theory on it anyway. Let's talk about off-grid living. It's not that different. There aren't that many things that we do differently, other than the things I've talked about saving things up for sunny days and being a bit cautious. There are the two distinct modes of living that I talked about, the power conservation mode, where we're being careful and not using a lot of power, and the go hog wild power abundance mode. I use wood, and I've got an electric wood splitter that I use for it, and I pick sunny days in the fall to split my wood. If it's not sunny, I don't do it. It works fine. My wife uses I don't drink coffee, but she does. We use a stovetop coffee pot rather than an electric coffee maker. Clothesline versus dryer, laptop computers, and work with and not against nature. So don't try to be doing power hungry things at night or in cloudy days. Do them when you can, if possible. And tiny houses are ideal for off-grid because their power consumption is inherently relatively small, and you can add an off-grid system to them without that much difficulty. They're a beauty, especially if it's been designed for that from the get-go. It's a great way to do it. And that's it. Any other questions?